Alright, welcome back. Now let's dive into The Naked Gun from the files of Police Squad, starring Leslie Nielsen, or Nelson. However you pronounce his last name, but he died almost 11 years ago, and 2025 is right around the corner in just about 5 days. So here we are in Beirut, Lebanon, and we see this white government building and different nations and generals and politicians plotting to attack America. And here we meet the protagonist, Lieutenant Frank Drebin, played by Leslie Nielsen, or Nelson, as he beats everyone around in the most wackiest manner, since that is the goal for this movie. Present whatever is serious comedically.
I'm Lieutenant Frank Drebin, Police Squad.
And now on to the theme song. So just it continues a goofy ride of Frank Drebin just driving everywhere around LA, and finally directed by David Zucker, who also directed another movie just as goofy as this one. It's called Airplane from the 80s, you've heard of it. Alright, so back in America in Los Angeles, and here we meet Detective Nordberg, played by the famous O.J. Simpson, who also died this year in 2024. So many people dying this year, I don't really get it, but you know, it's almost over. I think 2025, who knows how many deaths will occur in that upcoming new year. So he takes out this wave frequency thing and hears what the enemy is speaking about on the other side of the the boat harbor. So Nordberg now gets to the boat and tries to break in.
Throw down your guns!
And here comes out the main villain, Vincent Ludwig, played by Ricardo Montalban, who is a prominent actor from the older movies, mainly the ones before the 1970s. I highly doubt anyone of today has ever heard of the movies he's been in, but you know, you mostly see them in the older ones in the 50s, 60s, and 40s. So we just see a bunch of corny mishaps, and now we are in LAX airport as we see Frank Drebin coming back from Lebanon. And here we meet Ed Hawken, played by George Kennedy, another prominent actor who's almost everywhere in every movie before the 90s.
No flowers, thank you. Welcome.
Ed now tells Frank that if Victoria ran away, probably Frank's daughter. And now Weird Al Yankovic is here, if you ever heard of him. Pretty famous back in the 80s, 90s, maybe the early 2000s. I don't know. I didn't know who he was, so maybe like 15. The two now get back to headquarters, and now some more comedy, and now tells him that Nordberg is alive. So now the two are at the hospital, and we see Nordberg right there, as well as this, and his wife, Wilma. So there's so much comedy in this movie, but I only play the ones that will cause the most amount of laughter. We got Nordberg says that there was a boat with drugs, as well as
Love you.
You're Tanaka. How do you feel about me?
I love you too, Nordberg.
now Nordberg's wife shows a picture of the ship, and that's named I Love You, so Nordberg doesn't really love Frank Drebin. Pretty embarrassing for him. So now the three leave the hospital as they now have to meet up at a press conference about the arrival of the Queen Elizabeth of England. I don't know if it's the real Queen Elizabeth or some actress that looks like her. I don't know. I gotta check the cast list again. So now Frank heads to the bathroom after drinking all that water and is now peeing loudly, which everyone can hear. And now he's humming. So now Frank and Ed head down to the same harbor where Nordberg was attacked and checks it out. So Frank now talks to the dock watchman. Now that's funny, and asks questions about Nordberg and mentions Vincent Ludwig, the guy from earlier.
I can't tell you that.
Well, maybe this'll help.
I really don't think I should.
Alright, so now he heads down to Vincent Ludwig's office, and now Frank meets up with him. Yet another funny joke.
Cuban? No, Dutch-Irish. My father was from Wales.
So Ludwig now gives Frank a tour of his office, and he is a real estate developer. And now Ludwig is asked about Nordberg, and now is concerned as Frank plays with the pen, and now Frank wants to see some personnel files, as well as Ludwig calling in his personal assistant.
Hello.
And here is Jane Spencer, played by Elvis's wife, Priscilla Presley. And this love stuff progresses on in the next two movies. So Frank Drebin does fall for the personal assistant, even though it's not his. So Frank grabs the file he needs for the I Love You boat on Pier 32, and here comes in Ludwig again. Okay, so now Frank now returns to police squad, and he forgot to put his car in park and lets it run. Alright, so now he walks in the forensics lab with Ed and Ted there as they watch some spray painters and find some shoes with a knife blade, something like from Russia with Love, as well as dart shooting cufflinks. And we see this giant forensics doctor. I don't really get to see his face, but I forget the actor's name that plays him. And now they find some drugs on Nordberg's clothes, and now Ed suspects Nordberg for taking drugs. Alright, so back at Vincent Ludwig's office, we see Mr. Pashmir, I think a Russian guy, walking and speaking about an assassin. Now the secretary walks in, and now we see Ludwig pressing this button, and we see this.
I must kill Pashmir.
So a hypnotic assassin that no one can identify. Wow, very comedic stuff right here. So they proceed with this idea, and now we see the goofy Frank Drebin back at the hospital to check on Nordberg. And now we see this police guard and uses the hypnosis assassin thing on the doctor as the front desk lady tells Frank that a Lieutenant Drebin called in and sent the police guard home, which he didn't do. And now for some more comedy fun. Alright, so the hypnotic doctor escapes and steals a car, Grand Theft Auto style. And Frank hitches a ride with a teen driving school student. And now for some more cheesy shit. This movie is so cheesy but yet so fun at the same time.
Extend your middle finger.
But at the same time, the doctor is now dead. As Frank walks around and now heads home, and we see gymnastics as well as Jane Spencer as she wears a shirt. Now changes into a more comfortable suit as she sucks on his finger, and now he shows her the picture of the ship. If you want to know the condom brand, it's right there for all you guys that are wanting to practice that kind of safe stuff. And now some more Disney style romance. And that's the end of the music video, brought to you by Hermit's Hermits, who are real, by the way. Didn't know who they were until I watched this movie. So Frank and Ed are now waiting outside looking for Vincent Ludwig. Now that Ludwig is here, now Frank takes out his credit cards to try to break into the office. Now that he's in, Frank is searching around, can't believe half the movie's already over. It's not that long of a movie, it's like about 80 minutes, maybe 75 minutes. And now Frank finds a piece of paper with $20 million transferred to a bank account in Zurich. And now turns on everything in Ludwig's office. Everything's burning down and sees Ludwig walking up, and now Frank is outside the ledge. With some more comedy moments that are worth showing, but I can't show. You know how it is. So now Frank enters the woman's apartment, and now the next day, Frank learns that Ludwig's here to assassinate the Queen, and now Frank and Ed are about to leave. And now the judge tells Frank that he is not invited at the Queen's arrival. Now Frank is back at home and takes off his bra and now heads to the kitchen, and now some more comedy. As well as... Now the doorbell rings, funny to hear a doorbell in an apartment. And again, that's the whole point of the movie. And it's Jane Spencer again, and Frank tells Jane everything about what he saw in Vincent Ludwig's office.
It's just too bad you don't know him like I do.
Oh, yeah? And how's that?
And now she says Vincent Ludwig wants to talk to Frank Drebin tonight, as Jane Spencer just suddenly leaves, and now that he's at the Ludwig factory, now some shooting occurs and some attempted fighting, but Ludwig's guy falls into the vat of fat or toxic waste. It was all set up, by the way. So now we're at the Ambassador Hotel where the Queen will be arriving, as Ed tells the cops to look out for suspicious things and activities as Frank walks in even though he's not invited. So we are now in the ballroom where we saw Jane Spencer lying about doing something tonight, doing something else, where she actually had to meet up with Vincent Ludwig instead. And now she's making excuses with some more comedy.
Too bad, Sugar Pop.
So now it's occurring as we see Vincent Ludwig presenting an ancient gun. And here comes the Queen. Again, I don't know if it's the real Queen. Maybe it's just an actress that looks just like her. So now Frank is so goofy here that he jumps up onto the Queen and slides in with her on the table full of food. Now back at police squad as Ed tells Frank that this is the embarrassing part, as Ed says it, but Frank is now mad, now throwing things everywhere as Jane walks in, telling Frank that she has nothing to do with Vincent Ludwig and his work. So she also tells the others, as the cops in the background are paying attention, that are dressed like Frank Drebin.
There was never anything between us. He likes Eastern men.
Another comedy moment, that the Queen will be shot today at a baseball game. And with the introduction of all these known baseball commentators who are probably all dead by now. Haven't seen baseball in years. So here comes the Queen as Frank sees that the head usher is needed and pretends to be the usher, but actually takes the place of the opera singer Enrico Palazzo. And now here comes the head usher.
1 second.
So everyone knows it's Frank Drebin, as the real Enrico Palazzo is all tied up in the back room. And Frank runs away, and now for another disguise. And now we see some baseball highlights. And now we see some.
Sorry, fellas.
So this kind of humor is done. You don't really see this kind of stuff presented in movies today. Alright, so now back to the game, and now for some more dugout dogs. And now for some more baseball moments, as Frank is now posing as the umpire. And a whole lot of spitting. So now the players are ready to play. He's supposed to say strike one. Now as the game progresses, Frank continues to search the players for any weapons at the same time. So Frank tells Ed that he searched almost every player, which leaves only one, as that last player has managed to bat just before the last strike.
Reggie Jackson.
Now Frank tries to prevent the last player from making it safe, and now with the same hypnotic trance developed by Vincent Ludwig earlier, and now this player is under the hypnosis headed to kill the Queen. So Jane yells toward Frank that the player is now seen as he pulls out his gun, as well as Ludwig pointing the gun at Jane Spencer. Now as Frank tries to take down the hypnotized player, the two teams brawl each other, as the hypnotized player is just unbeatable. Whoa. There is about 5 minutes left of the movie, and Frank sees Ludwig kidnapping Jane Spencer, and now we end it off with this. Alright, so Vincent Ludwig is officially dead, as well as that he has already set up a hypnosis and is instructed to kill Frank Drebin solely by Jane Spencer. And now for some Hollywood-style romance as a way for it to get back to normal. And looks like it worked after showing that ring, and now everyone is crying and hugging. So everything's now done, as Nordberg is back in the wheelchair. And that's the end of the first Naked Gun from the Files of Police Squad, 1988. There are 2 more Naked Gun movies, which I'll probably look into real soon. I don't know about that yet. But apparently there's a new Naked Gun movie starring Liam Neeson coming out next year, 2025, where he plays as Frank Drebin Jr. I don't know, maybe it's just a clickbait post which I saw on Google. But that's it from me. See you soon in Enter the Dragon from 1973 when Bruce Lee. Like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Year's almost over. We're trying to push out as many episodes as I can. Take care, see you soon, and watch away. And check out The Naked Gun if you haven't yet.